Hi, this is Destiny from Desfix and welcome back to another video in the blog app using Django and React.js. In this one, we will get started creating the custom user and profile model. That is what we'll be doing. Hopefully you will enjoy the video and learn something new. So let's get started. We should begin by opening up our code editor and we can close up these tabs. Then come over to API models PY. And over here, we need to import a couple of things. Firstly, let's import from django.contrib.auth.models. .auth.models. We need to import abstract user, not abstract base user, but instead abstract user. You also need to import from django.db.models.signals. You need to import post save, and we also need to import max save. So I'll say, okay, for now, let's just import slugify. So from django.utils.text import slugify. All right, let's now import shots UUID. So from UUID.django fields import shots UUID field, and I also want to import shots UUID. All right, so after we've imported this, these are pretty much everything that we need. I will show you guys how to use all this. Let us start off by customizing the user model. I'll create a new class called user and add abstract base user. Now, just so you know, you could call this user here whatever you want. You could call this custom user. You could also call it my base user, but I like calling mine user just to stick with the user name, with the naming over here, so that sometime in the future, if I decide to stop using the custom user, I could just import user from here like this. I could just import user like this, and immediately everywhere in my application where I have used the custom user, we will change to this. I don't know if that makes sense. So that is why I like using the user keyword over here. Now for this one, I need a couple of fields. I need the user name field. This one should be models.character field. And I want it to be unique. So unique should be true. And it definitely needs a max length. So max length of this, I want to go with 100 for it. I also need an email field. So models.email field. And I also want it to be unique. So unique should be true. And then I also need a full name field. It should be models.character field. Max length should be, let's stick with 100. And null can be true. Blank also can be true. There you go. And for now, these are everything that I need. Now I want to allow users to be able to log in using their email instead of username. So what we need to do is set username field to email. So username field should be set to email, and required fields should be username. So I'm adding this one because whenever we want to create a user, username should actually be added. Now, it's not professional showing users the username field when they're about to sign up. It will make the forms to be, a little bit too much to fill out. So what I like doing is, whenever a user puts in their full name or even email, I take the first part of their email and fill it into the username. For example, let's say an email is destiny@gmail.com. I take the destiny keyword and put it as their username. I don't know if that makes sense. So how do we actually do that? I'll say define save. I want to override the default save method. And over here, I'll add args and quags. And after args and quags, let's get and actually split the email. So I'll say email or let me call it email username and underscore or dash, or you could just call it anything, mobile or null, because we won't be using that, okay? So I'll say email username and null, or you could even just call it mobile so it doesn't confuse anyone, should be self.email.split. And I want to split the email at the @ okay? So this is the email, right? destiny@gmail.com. As soon as we keep reading and we get to this at, we split it. So now we have this and this. Now everything here will be assigned to the email username, and this will be assigned here. I hope that makes sense. So whenever you call email username, you're calling this. Okay. So what we then need to do is check if self.fullname is equal to empty, which means it hasn't been filled already, or self.fullname is equal to none, just to make sure that it actually really checks that field. Now what do we want to do? Let's fill the full name. So self.fullname should be equal to email username. I hope this makes sense. And let's do the same thing for the username. So if self.username is equal to empty string, or self.username is equal to none, then let's fill the self.username with whatever the name of the email is. So that should be equal to email username. It's as simple as that, guys. We are done. So over here we'll say super, and then we add self and then user. Okay, I try to switch that. It should be user and self. So make sure you add whatever model is here, and also add self here so that we can be able to communicate with the fields here, just like we're doing here. Okay, and now save this. To save it, you need to also pass in this args and quags. All right, so that is pretty much it. It's working as we expect. Now this error that you keep seeing here is just because in the settings file we haven't set the auth user model to communicate with this one, so it's like confused. It doesn't know how to work with this. Don't worry, I'll show you guys how this works. Let's create another model called profile, and this one now will take models.model, and I want to add a user model, or a user field rather. This should be foreign key, or instead it should be a 1-to-1 field, because I want one user to have one profile. That is why I'm making it a 1-to-1 field. And over here I will say user, and on the list should be equal to models.cascade. As simple as that. I also need an image field, so image should be models.file field. Now if you've been following along with my tutorials, you'll know why I like using file field instead of image field. Now image field are limited to some particular extensions, but file field accepts any extension and can display it in the image tag. Okay, so I will upload this to, for now, let me upload it to a folder that will be automatically created and called image. And you can add a default image if you want. So default image should be what? In a folder called default. The file will be called default-user.jpg. We haven't added this yet. And so in some cases, a user might not actually want to upload an image. So let's add null true, blank true. I hope that makes sense. Now I want you to add full name, because you could just take the full name from the user model and put it down here. I also want you to add an about, or bio rather, that should be bio. And I also want you to add about, and then you could add author. So author. Now this will be checked. It should be a Boolean field. So this will be checked if only this user is an author. So by default, it should be false. Okay. So when the user becomes an author and they have written at least their first blog post, we mark them as an author. I hope that makes sense. Now I also need a couple more things, like the country of the profile. So change this to country. I also need their Facebook and Twitter handles. Facebook and Twitter. Now this one is up to you. You can add whatever field you want. You can remove the ones that you don't want. Okay. And finally, a date when the profile was created. So models.datetime field. Author now add should be equal to true. You see, we are done. So there is even one thing that we missed here in the user model. We need to return a string representation of the object. Again, if you have been following along with my tutorials by now, you should understand what string representation are. It's pretty much a way that we use to represent objects in the database, or you could also say even in the admin section, okay? But mainly in the database. So for example, if you don't return a string representation, when a user gets created, you will see it as objects hash 1, okay? And if another user gets created, you see that objects hash 2, objects hash 3, all right? It might be object hash, it might not be object hash, but it looks like this, which is not really user-friendly. Instead of showing object hash 1, how about we just show the full name of the user? So when a user gets created, we show their full name, Destiny Franks, okay? Sam J, okay? And you can also show Karen Doe. All right, that's pretty much it. So that's why we return string representation. And what you simply need to do is return self.username. All right, it's as simple as that, username. So now I want to do the same thing for the profile model. So I'm just gonna copy it and put it down here so I don't have to retype all that. Now this should be self.user.username. And why am I saying self.user.username? That is because if you just say self.username, there is no username field here. So there is no way you're going to be able to actually access the username. The username field is only linked to the user field, which is a foreign key to the user model, or rather a one-to-one field to the user model. So you can actually use chaining to say self.user, which is this field. Then we go into the user field and grab the username. I don't know if that makes sense. So you can also say self.user.email, the email for this one. Okay. So now that we've done this, that is pretty much everything that we want to do. And I think that is pretty much it. So one thing that we could even do is, instead of doing this way, which will happen by default, let's remove this email username and check if self.fullname is equal to empty or self.fullname is equal to none. I want self.fullname to be equal to self.user.fullname. Does this make sense? I'm doing this because a user will have to get created first before a profile. And whenever a user gets created, we run this code down here that assigns a username and a full name to the user field. Okay. Now what I'm pretty much doing is saying whenever the profile gets created and there is no full name or username, not username, no full name, what I want to do is grab the full name that has been prefilled by the user and use it for the profile full name. Okay. So in that case, you just need to say self.user. That should be self.user.username. Okay. Or instead full name rather. So that is pretty much it. You can also do the same thing here at the top. So this should be self.user.fullname. And you could even remove this one. There is no need for this one. And remember what I told you. Make sure that the profile that you're interacting with is what you're adding over here. Okay. So guys, that was pretty much it. This model has now been successfully created, but there is an issue. Please remove this parentheses so that we don't have that bug. All right, there you go. So now that we have all this created, let's quickly create Django signals. And what Django signals does is pretty much listing for a particular event that has taken place in our application and then perform its own operation based on that event. All right, so now that we have completed all this, let's hop over to the settings PY in the back end. And what you want to do is add the auth user model. So adding the auth user model is pretty much like a way that we tell Django that, hey, Django, we now have a new user model that you should make use of instead of the default user model. So over here, I will say auth user underscore model should be equal to, and I will call the API dot user. Okay. So now we need to migrate. If you run your server again, you will see that the error should be gone. You see, okay, we are getting, yep, this is okay. We need to actually migrate the API for this to work. So this is how I usually like doing this. I want you to come over here and I want you to comment out the admin and also Jasmine. So just comment the both of this out. That is before you actually run any migration, and also open up the bait URLs PY and comment the slide out. So after commenting those two lines out, then I want you to run Python manage PY, make migrations, and also Python manage PY migrate. So now can you see the issue that we are getting after we run migrate? Now, let us follow some simple steps to fix this issue. The very first thing I want you to do is drop the database, because the error is trying to tell us that the blacklist token has been applied before its dependency. So its dependency is this. This needs to be applied before the token blacklist gets applied, okay? But we actually started off by installing REST framework and running migrates, and then we'll come over to run migrates now, which really doesn't make sense. So after you've deleted the database, I want you to also open up the migrations folder, and you could just get rid of it. You could delete everything in the migrations folder like this, okay? And now I want you to run python manage py make migration and python manage py migrate. All right, so just give this some time, and there you go. It has migrated. Now I'm gonna run make migration just in case. Okay, now let's go ahead and run server. All right, I spinned up my server, and now I'm gonna try opening this up, but it's not gonna work. That is because firstly, this is commented out. So please go ahead uncomment this. Also go ahead uncomment this and this. Okay, so uncomment the both. And right now, see, we have 3 unapplied migrations. So let's go ahead, run python manage py make migrations, okay, and python manage py migrates. There you go. There you go. So now if you run server, it's going to work, but you will not be able to log in because you need a super user for you to be able to log in. So now you can see it's requesting an email. So what you need to do is run python manage py create super user and add in the email. So I'll say destiny@gmail.com. And now, okay, it says no such API, no such table API user. So let's go ahead and run python manage.py make migrations API, so that we migrate that particular table, and also python manage py migrate API. Okay guys, so you can see we seem to still be getting the same issue over here. I think what we need to do is firstly migrate and make migrations for the API before we actually start running the migrations for the whole application. So in this case, I want to drop the database again one more time, and also the migrations folder one more time, okay? And now I want to run python manage py make migrations API and also migrate API. There you go. Can you see we have now migrated the API, and it has created the models and also the 001 initial, which we actually did. So now you can now go ahead and run python manage py just make migrations like that, and you see no changes detected. Then I want you to run only migrate like that. Then we now apply the token. Okay, so now if you run your server, or rather create super user, because we haven't created it yet. So email is destiny@gmail.com. User is Destiny. Password is testing321. Testing321. There you go. Now run your server again, and I want you to go ahead and log in with that information. So destiny@gmail.com. There you go. We have now successfully logged in. So guys, that is pretty much it. It's working as expected. Now that error is actually quite explanatory. If you take a look at the error again, you can see it says migration token blacklist 001 initial is applied before its dependency. It's just like saying a child is coming before its parents, which doesn't make sense. So now you need to actually bring in its dependency, which is this one, before bringing in this one. That is why we had to run python manage py make migrations API to migrate only that app. Because if you run only make migrations, it will migrate all the apps that you have in your project. But if you want to specify just one app, after typing out the python manage py make migrations, then append the name of the app over there. For example, python manage py make migrations API, then migrate API. Then after it has applied this over here, after we've done it like this, then go ahead and run only python manage py make migrations and python manage py migrate, and everything should work well. So that is pretty much it. Now, if you open up the admin for the API, you can now configure the admin over here. If you don't want to type all that out, you can still see it here in the API admin. Let me open this up. Okay, you know what? Let's just go ahead and import say from API import models as API underscore models. And over here, let's set it up. So admin.site.register API models.user and also API models.profile. Then save this and allow our server to reload. And now when you come over here and reload this page, you can now see user and profile model. This is our user, Destiny. We automatically also, okay, we haven't created the profile. Yep, we haven't created the profile. I wanted to do that, then I think I skipped that. So let's create a profile using Signal. But before I do this, let me just add a profile so that we don't have an issue, okay? So I'll just add a profile for Destiny and save. Okay, so you see, immediately I saved, see, it automatically populates the name using the username. All right, but now let's automatically create a profile using Signal. So what we want to do is define a new function called create user underscore profile. It needs a couple of things: sender, instance. It also need created, and it also need keyword args, or you could call it wags. And we need to check if created. What do we want to do? Let's create a new profile for the user. Profile.objects.create, where user should be instance. So what we are pretty much doing is this: we will be supplying the user model to this particular function here, and whenever a new user gets created, and this code is going to fire, and we automatically create a new profile for that user. Okay, so that is number one. Now, creating the profile is one thing. Another thing is saving the profile. So define save user profile, and this one needs sender instance. It doesn't need created any longer. It just needs the keyword args. Okay, and now what we simply need to do is save that profile that has been created. So instance.profile.save. So what we're going to do is go ahead and now pass in the user model to these two functions by connecting them using post save. So I'll say post underscore save.connect, post save.connect, and I will call the create user profile and pass in the model I want it to interact with, which will be user. Okay, do the same thing for the save user profile, passing the model you want to interact with, user. All right, that is it. You see, we don't have any error. Everything is, see, our server is running well. And right now, when we try creating a new user, let me add a new user real quick. Let me say the password should be testing321. The username should be J, and the email should be j@gmail.com. j@gmail.com, and I'm gonna save this. See, now we have J. If you come over to profile, we now automatically have J profile being created automatically instead of manually. That is pretty much it. The custom user profiles have been created. In the next one, we'll start creating the custom user model serializer, and we'll start discussing about JWT token and all that. You know what we could even do in the next one? We could just start creating all the other models that we need: category, post, comment, bookmark, and notification. We can start creating them in the next video. And after that, we can start working with JWT authentication. That was pretty much it. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and learned something new. If you're looking to build websites faster and professionally, then I would highly recommend that you check out nestblog.app, because they've got a lot of components for you if you're looking to build websites using any CSS framework, be it Tailwind, Bootstrap, Boomer, Materialize, even pure CSS. So I'll drop the link in the description below. It's nestblog.app. Check it out and you can start getting components and creating websites faster and professionally using them. That is it. I hope to see you in the next video. Until then, mad love. Peace out.